So that is game number 1 for the Caitlin Clark Fever, and I'm not going to get too hyped on this because I said this when the Sky won. Everyone was going mad being like, you're going to be saying the Fever are the Brazil national team is the best team in the world and the Fever playing. No, the Sky beat them by 27, the Fever beat them by 64. It was, and again, the Fever played, even their reserves won. They only scored 38 points in the second half and still scored 108 points. When it came to the Fever, also lads, if you guys are new, subscribe. We're trying to hit 45 subscribers by the end of the day, 14 more. But Kelsey Mitchell played a few minutes second half. Nobody on the Fever played more than 21. Coulson played the most minutes for the Fever. We went with the bench for the whole fourth quarter, and Brazil were garbage. Brazil were absolutely garbage. Like, let's call a spade a spade. They're garbage. They're a bad national team without their 2 best players. So, obviously, Damers Dantas has, didn't play the game. Brazil high-fiving. That's good to see. But, somebody in my comments said the Sky played them way better. They won by more than double. But, yeah, for the Fever, honestly, I thought Aaliyah Boston thank you for the $1 post, but Aaliyah Boston I thought had a solid game. I thought her finishing was a little bit iffy, but when you have, they took a rebound and an assist off her. At one stage she had 11, 8 and 6 when she got subbed off. They took a rebound and an assist off her. Natasha Howard I thought was fine. She ran the floor well, scored a bit. Defense didn't really matter. Tawana Bonner only played 12 minutes. She barely played in the second half. And Kelsey Mitchell was hitting her shots, 4 of 6 from 3. Sophie Cunningham barely played, was fine. Sydney Coulson is just not. She's just not it. I'll talk about it in a video later, but genuinely, when it comes to Coulson, she's just not. She didn't even look good today. As far as the bench is concerned, Michaela Timpson is going to make the squad. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. She was fantastic. She was absolutely fantastic. She was aggressive. And obviously, again, point center Aaliyah Boston. The team does not function without Aaliyah Boston or Caitlin Clark on the floor. They're a little bit better when it's Aaliyah Boston and Sophie Cunningham on the floor. And Sophie's running the one. She did very little today. They've looked better. They've just looked bad with Sydney Coulson on a point. They've genuinely just looked bad. Bree Turner barely played. Again, was +9. I don't know. I've been working under the assumption that Bree Turner is going to make the team, but if Dantas is going to be there, and Michaela Timpson is looking as good as she is and is going to be in the rotation over Bree Turner, if I'm the Fever, I would cut Bree Turner and bring in Bree Hall. I don't think they're going to do it, and I do feel bad for Bree Hall, who didn't play yesterday, so it's hard to judge her. I think she's going to play a lot against the Dream, because I think Bree Hall looked really good. In that bench lineup, she looked like by far the best player there in that when they went with all the rookies. But it realistically was Coulson and 4 players are going to be cut. I do feel bad for Bree Hall. Jaylen Brown is athletic, plays a bit of defense, but she can't shoot. She can't score. She couldn't score in Russia. She can't score now. Yvonne Ejim looked good against the weaker competition, but we saw how bad she was yesterday. And Gillian Lane is okay, I guess. I mean, she got boards. She's got 6 offensive boards, which is impressive, to be fair. But all in all, I didn't also say that there's just levels. There is levels to basketball, and Caitlin Clark is just levels above everybody else. Genuinely levels above anybody else on the court. She hit one of the craziest shots I've ever seen. She recreated the record-breaking shot. And I stand by this. I tweeted out and I said, the people in the media saying that the hype is manufactured, should be ashamed of themselves. Because how many players in the world are doing this? It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. And also, obviously, the crowd go absolutely berserk, but you guys can't hear that on your end. Honestly, Caitlin with 5 assists. If Aaliyah could score layups, it would have been 8 assists. And Aaliyah, again, a lot of gimmies missed. But again, she did everything well other than her finishing. The turnover, she had 2 in the first possession, 2 possessions that were a little bit iffy. So I don't really care that much about that. But all in all, Caitlin Clark with a plus 42. She played 18 minutes. She played 18 minutes and was plus 42. Plus 42. 42 in 18 minutes. And there was a stage where it was her with all the rookies and she was still just carrying them. She got 2 assists to an Yvonne Ejim. 1 foul, 3 turnovers to 5 assists. And again, the turnovers were just trying mad stuff. Like, it is what it is. Don't really care that much. But in 18 minutes, she had 16, 6, and 5. Like, that's so impressive on 60% shooting and 4 of 6 from 3. And not only that, every single one of her threes were from a minimum of like 28 feet. None of them were catch and shoot threes. She was being face guarded in an exhibition game. They were face guarding her. So we saw a few days ago with Paige in preseason, they're leaving her open. People are like, oh, why are they going to guard her hard in preseason? She was being face guarded. Every time she didn't have the ball, they were denying her. They were blitzing her off screens in an exhibition. This isn't even preseason. This was a literal exhibition game. It did not matter. They were playing a national team. It was an exhibition game, and they were blitzing her. And she still came out in 18 minutes with 16, 6, and 5 on 60% shooting. She was being blitzed. And also, I'm not going to say playing on one leg, because you could see when she tried to run, she was fine. But obviously, there's still a little bit of tightness there, and she kind of not was like looking bad when she was moving. I think she was actively choosing to take it handy. She was actively choosing to take it handy. And I mean that, like, Caitlin Clark absolutely dominated. And we saw, like, look, Kelsey was good. I do think, regardless, if you're looking at a box score, you can say Aaliyah played bad. No, Aaliyah played well. DeWanna Bonner was just solid. Cunningham didn't really play enough. I thought Michaela Timms was fantastic. And I do think Bree Hall was pretty good. And I do feel bad for Bree Hall. I genuinely feel bad for Bree Hall, because I think that she should have a roster spot. But unfortunately, Lynn Dunn gave Katie Lou Samuelson a 2-year max, and we had to buy her out of the contract. Get well soon, Katie Lou. Hopefully she comes back and is strong, or she comes back strong. But I'm sorry, that contract from Lynn Dunn really screwed the Fever over. It really, really screwed the Fever over, I have to say. Absolutely screwing the Fever over. So, yeah, that's the game. That is the game. I really want, like, Michaela Timpson, it's a given. They're keeping Michaela Timpson. She was like 7th player off the bench today. If it turns out, my ideal scenario is that they realize, you know what, Timpson's just better than Bree Hall. They cut Bree Hall. They cut Bree Turner, not cut Bree Turner. They cut Bree Turner and they keep Bree Hall. That would be my ideal scenario. However, what's more than likely going to happen is they're going to have to cut Bree Hall and pray no one signs her. And a lot of people are saying, you know, Bree Hall, she might just wait and they'll sign her after 10 games. But it's like, you can't really do that, because if you are Bree Hall, would you want to be signed by the Fever to go sit on the end of the bench? Or would you be cut and you go sign with the Phoenix Mercury, or you go sign with the Seattle Storm, and for the Mercury potentially start, and for the Storm potentially be a key bench player? Why would you choose to sit on the end of the bench for the Fever instead of playing for one of those teams if you have the opportunity as a free agent? So I just think it's very unlikely that Bree Hall stays on the team. I really would like Bree Hall to stay on the team, but I also would make the argument that if you're going to, like, I would make the argument that Coulson maybe should be cut, but, you know, obviously she tells jokes, so you're going to keep, you're going to have to keep Coulson on the team. But I would love if Cheyenne Sellers is actually healthy, you know, getting rid of Coulson and putting in Sellers. Like, I wouldn't mind that, just for the modern point guard. Even though, you want to know what the best thing would have been? You want to know what the best thing would have been? To have not cut the player that Cheryl Reeve is talking about as the second best shot creator on the Minnesota Lynx after Fee Collier. Not cut her for a comedian. I would have loved that. But, I mean, obviously, the jokes are more important than, you know, the basketball ability. But at the end of the day, look, The Indiana Fever might win the stand-up comedy unless Sydney Colson gets kicked out of the stand-up comedy event for comparing too many players to men, which she's done multiple times now. But yeah, as you can tell, I'm not much of a fan of Sydney Colson. But yeah, either way, I will say, like, this season, how much better our offense looks. Like, their offense looked terrible when Caitlin Clark was off the floor. It looked absolutely terrible. With Colson running the offense, even against Brazil, it did not look good. But Caitlin Clark turns the Indiana Fever from one of the worst offensive teams to one of the best offensive teams. And their defense is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic compared to last year. They were tough. They were gritty. They got in the way. Brazil were physical and they weren't getting bullied. Caitlin was holding her own physically. A lot of stuff. A lot of positives on the defensive end. But again, can't get too bogged down on the defense and on the box scores and everything, because the Brazil national team suck. But anyway, yeah, that is pretty much it, lads. We are ending the video. We're also ending the stream, and I will be live for the Fever's next preseason game, and I might be live for some other preseason games over the next week. I will see what games are happening, and if there's anyone that I'm interested in, I might go live for. But anyway, I will see you guys.